The Necron sarcophagus schematics in fortress blueprints show a single flaw in the energy conduit. A defect that stops the Cetan biotransference mid-cycle. How many tombs failed to awaken their pharaohs? What if the Mechanicus found the flaw in Necron blueprints and sealed it into the Blackstone Fortresses? The biotransference mid-cycle biotransference needs perfect symmetry. One failed to awaken their miscalculated pharaoh's angle, one misaligned conduit, and the soul crystal fractures. The Necronter, blind to their own trap, buried resurrection chambers across the galaxy. How many pharaohs remain asleep? The dark age of technology was a forge of chaos. Its furnaces burned with war and ambition. Beneath the war haze, Necron engineers moved as shadows through the Mechanicus, their purpose buried deeper than tombs. They called it the second pact, not with gods, but with entropy. During the war in heaven, while the Necronter gambled with divine blood, these exiles twisted their own resurrection engines. They etched failures into the code, forged dead ends in the pathways of their pharaoh's return. The Blackstone Fortresses rose not as weapons, but as tombstones. Cold, cubic, humming with void silence, they were monuments to a war not yet fought. The Mechanicus, blind to the heresy in their ranks, called them sacred constructs. The Necron architects knew every circuit was a shackle, every data core a cage. When the great sleep fell and the stars forgot war, those engineers vanished. Their machines remained, waiting. The Imperium would one day call them saviors. The Necrons would call them traitors. But what name sticks to a thing that saves the galaxy by stealing its own soul? The fortresses did not guard against the dead. They ensured the dead would stay that way. How many secrets lie frozen in their circuits? How many pharaohs still dream of waking? The Blackstone Fortresses are tombs, cold, unyielding. Their walls hum with dead dynasties' weight. What the Imperium calls a weapon, the Necrons knew as a shroud. Deep in their cores, stolen schematics written not to destroy, but to delay. The Cetan biotransference alchemy of death and rebirth fails where these circuits pulse. A hollow shell remains, not a god. The engineers who carved these traps did not betray the Necron cause. They betrayed the Necron cruelty. The Great Sleep was no accident. It was a gambit, a pharaoh's final jest. Those who sculpted the fortresses saw the coming storm, the Imperium's hunger, the Cetan's gnawing. So they wove corruption into their code, a rot no necrotic heart could purge. Their names are lost, but their choice echoes. Better 1,000 Necrons shattered than 1,000,000,000 stirred. The fortress's silence is not empty. It is full of paradoxes, bleeding calculations, of chambers where resurrection drowns in logic. The Imperium stands unaware, using chains that bind its enemies. How many Necron lords lie entombed in their own defenses? How many would rise only to find their souls dissolved by the hand they trusted? The galaxy spins. The fortresses wait. And in their dark, the last whispers of ancient tricksters whom a dirge for the dead and a warning to the living. The Mechanicus came first. Tech priests in rust-stained robes carved through obsidian walls with cerulean plasma saws. They dissected. They did not kneel or pray. Gears groaned, cables hissed. The machines, long dead, whispered secrets never meant to be spoken. The Adeptus Mechanicus did not know they were grave robbers. They believed they had found the Old One's final gift, schematics, blueprints, formulas. But the glyphs they copied, the circuits they rewired, the codes they transcribed, all were traps. Each line of data a splinter in the Necron's rebirth, each equation a stone in the Imperium's shield. The silent King Sherk watched from the void, his voice a cold wind through the dead. He did not rage, he did not weep, he calculated. His legions, frozen in sarcophagi, were a species on hold. The fortresses were their time lock. The Mechanicus, blind to sabotage, had become the Necrons' executioners. The Imperium came later. Inquisitors, missionaries, dreadnoughts. They called the sites tombs of the heresy arcs, walled them in with iron and dogma. Pilgrims left offerings. Marines chained prayers to the gates. None saw the slow bleed of Necron power, siphoned by the very walls they venerated. The fortresses were not tombs, they were tourniquets. The silent king had no choice. His people's return would drown the galaxy in war, so he let his engineers build their own chains. Let his knowledge be twisted into a weapon, the cost, a civilization's delayed end, a galaxy's borrowed time. Now the Necrons bypass the fortresses. Their new war logic rejects old traps. Sherk's legions stir in shadowed systems, strategy reforged, but the fortresses still stand, cold, hollow. Witnesses to a sacrifice no one will thank. Only the wind through broken spires remembers. Only the stars above silent stone, what is buried there, not relics, not weapons. The bones of a deal no god would make. The Blackstone Fortresses are a warning, a pact. Necron engineers sabotaged their rebirth. The Imperium's salvation is a cage. Their slumber thins, awakening accelerates. The Imperium scholars study Necron tech as relics. The Mechanicus dismantles tombs for secrets. Yet no one sees the truth etched in cold iron, a betrayal older than the 41st millennium. These citadels were not gifts, they were traps. Necron engineers, dissenting against their pharaoh's endless war, wove corruption into their blueprints, a slow rot, a delayed trigger. The Imperium's salvation was never meant to protect humanity. It was a funeral shroud for the undying. The Necron's strategy remains unchanged: awaken, conquer, consume, but their architects are traitors. Their machines are graves. The fortresses do not resist resurrection, they accelerate it. Each citadel a catalyst, each weapon a whisper, come closer. Let the old gods rise, let them burn. The Imperium fights a war it cannot win. Yet victory is not in steel or faith, it is in patience. In letting the enemy finish its own sentence, the cost, a future erased. A galaxy sacrificed to a slower death. The fortresses are not shields, they are timekeeping devices. Counting down the Necrons' return and the price paid by those who wait. The Imperium's triumph is a wound that never heals, a pact forged in silence. A salvation demanding the living kneel and the dead stay buried. The slumber thins, the awakening accelerates. And still the galaxy breathes. They don't know the Blackstone Fortresses hum in darkness. Their walls remain warm from Necron hands colder than void. Each spire a monument to betrayal. Mechanicus adepti parse data streams, blind to the architects who coded undoing into circuits. Only the oldest whisper of a flaw not in the tech, but in the creators. A flaw turning grave to gauntlet, rebirth to ruin. Salvation was a pact the dead forged. Now the Imperium kneels at its own tomb, and silence, thick as ash, swallows every question. The machines remember. The stars do not. The truth lies in static between pulses, a secret the dead buried deeper than their bones. What remains is doctrine, what remains is dread. What remains is the weight of a debt no living tongue can name. The Blackstone Fortresses loom like tombs, their geometry hums with ancient intent. A weapon forged in the Necron's own image, now twisted to shatter the cycles they sought to cheat. What is faith but a cage of its own making? The Imperium prays to relics, blind to the hands that carved them, hands long turned to dust, yet still guiding the galaxy's descent. The fortresses are not salvation, they are a ledger. A debt paid in dead gods' currency, etched into the stars' bones. The galaxy bleeds and the Mechanicus sings hymns to its demise. For every shield raised against entropy, a dirge is carved deeper into the void. What remains when the last engine fails? Not victory, not peace. Only the quiet hum of a pact written in the blood of things that should not die. What if the walls guarding the Imperium's heart bear fingerprints of those meant to destroy it? As the Necron awakening accelerates, their engineers etched hidden fail-safes into Blackstone steel, a betrayal colder than void. A salvation never intended.